First name, Jimmy Butler. First, Shams Charania reported today that, quote, Butler is taking the next step in a 6-week-long process aimed at getting the All-Star out of Minnesota by sitting tonight against Utah. Could lead to extended absence, end quote. Then Woj reported that it was Minnesota's suggestion, Bomani, that Butler sit out, and he's expected to play on Friday. So what do we believe here?
I believe that this was scheduled rest for Jimmy Butler, right? I'd say I made a couple telephone calls as they put it into parlance, and it's like, this is what it is. It's just him resting. The problem for Minnesota, because of their inexplicable decision to continue this Jimmy Butler thing for as long as they have, anytime something like this happens, people are going to question if this is Jimmy bailing on them. How have they not traded him yet?
One of the issues, one of the reasons why people who did not do the detective work that you clearly did before the show, one of the reasons why they may think something amiss is going on is because he was listed as general soreness. And we know that Jimmy Butler is generally sore, but we also know that he is specifically sore. He wants out of there. And one of the trump cards he holds is to not play. So if this is coordinated behind the scenes, good on the Minnesota Timberwolves for clarifying that. But man, this is what that guy does if he wants to truly alienate the head coach that wants him so bad.
Yeah, but let me tell you, if Jimmy was bailing in that way, the Timberwolves would not tell us otherwise. I don't believe that. They may not say it in public, but somebody would have told us on the back end, hey, man, no, Jimmy just decided that he's not going to play. The other thing we have to say, in fairness to Jimmy Butler, nothing about him indicates that the length he's willing to go to in this is to actually not play. He doesn't really seem to be built like that.
Well, one of the other factors that's important to consider is that he's been averaging 30 minutes plus a game, and if you were to rest him, or if you were to rest him with the intent of trading him, doing it after the game he just played is a great time because he beat the Lakers, he looked like the Jimmy Butler everybody else would want. That's what you want to give him away for.
You just kind of subtly want to push the conspiracy, don't you?
A little bit.
Okay, there we go. Next name is the Rockets. After getting blown out by the Trailblazers last night, Houston is tied for last place in the West, and Mike D'Antoni said his squad right now is, quote, playing like crap, unquote, and, quote, we've lost our swagger, unquote. Pablo, do you have real concerns about the Rockets?
I do have real concerns about the Rockets. The Rockets last year, Bo, were incredible. They were incredible because when they had Chris Paul and Clint Capella and James Harden on the floor at the same time, they were 42-3. The good news for the Rockets right now is that those guys have only played 2 games together, at least Chris Paul and James Harden have. But the reason why I'm concerned about the Rockets fundamentally is that they don't play defense. They're not playing defense right now. Everybody is getting to the rim on them at will. And for a team that only has Clint Capella, you do wonder, is this a worse fit than they were last year?
Well, yeah, I think they were composed better last year, right? The way the team was constructed was better last year. This year, not so much. Also, there was something like 65 games last year. We would have expected that they would have been that good this year. But that dude right there, D'Antoni, I know he doesn't have the mustache that he had back in the day, but I feel like he showed up clean shaven in this way, and we were like, wow, maybe he turned into a new person. He did not. He is not a gentleman that's particularly concerned with coaching defense himself. He had Jeff Bezdelik last year. He ran the defense. The defense was good. He's not running the defense now, and guess what? The Rockets look like a Mike D'Antoni coach team.
Right, and again, for Mike D'Antoni, are you just banking on the fact that James Harden has this left hamstring, that Chris Paul got suspended for Show Ryukening Rajon Rondo? Is there time to solve this? Yes, there is. I do find it hilarious that next to Mike D'Antoni is Carmelo Anthony, and after this game, Carmelo Anthony is talking about how it is his job to prevent the toxicity of a losing atmosphere from invading this locker room because Carmelo Anthony, at the very least, should know a little bit about that.
He also knows how to handle that, and he has always dealt with it very well, at least personally, when it came to being him. But let's see how this goes for all of them. You mentioned that James Harden right now has the hamstring injury. Chris Paul was suspended, but they should be able to win games with only one of them. If Golden State goes down Steph Curry, they're not as good without him, but that's a team that can win. And when we're talking about with the Rockets, we're not talking about a team that we think might be good in the West. We're talking about a championship contender. They don't look it at all right now.
And you know who would help? Jimmy Butler. DJ Durkin Bomani is the next name. Yesterday, the University of Maryland reinstated the football coach who was placed on paid administrative leave in August following the June 13th death of 19-year-old defensive lineman Jordan McNair from heat stroke. Bo, The Athletic reported 3 players walked out of the team meeting with DJ Durkin yesterday. What was your reaction to the big decision the university has made.
All right, I would like to start by saying it is Halloween and we are wearing costumes, but this is as dead serious as a thing becomes here. And so
correct.
It's not simply they decided to retain him. It is that the president of the university said we need to find a way to move on. And reportedly, he was informed either you do this or you're fired, right? That's how ardent that they were about keeping DJ Durkin with his 10-15 record in charge at Maryland. And it is mind blowing. Here's the thing. He signed a 5-year contract for over $12 million. The buyout on that contract is 65% of the remaining value. So what we're talking about here is really something in the $45 million range it would take to move on from him if you can't fire him for a cause. You got to come up with that money, right? Now, if you don't have the money to come up with $4 million to get somebody out of here, then you probably don't need to be in the Big Ten because you're a small-time player. This is indefensible given what we learned about this program.
It is indefensible, and it also just feels incompetent because every day now we're going to have players walking out of meetings, protesting. Yesterday you warned against them transferring. I'm sure we'll get some transfers out of this. And then you have Jordan McNair's parents. Again, if we may be serious for a second here, Jordan McNair's parents are talking about how they feel like the university spit in their face. And everybody with a brain and a sense of perspective understands exactly why. If DJ Durkin was Vince Lombardi, Bomani, they should have gotten rid of him. He is not Vince Lombardi. He is a dude who is 10-15, 5-13, or whatever it is in the Big Ten. Why? I mean, this is incompetent.
Well, think about this. You talk about what happened with Jordan McNair's parents, right? And they obviously have a much more visceral reaction on these sorts of things. There are other parents whose kids play on that team, and you know the last thing they want to become? Jordan McNair's parents. Like, I don't think for a second that this is something that is going to wind up going silently. Maryland made the call not only to keep him, but to deal with whatever hell comes behind it. And I do not know how much they're going to be able to withstand. I feel like this is going to go worse than this Board of Regents ever figured that it would.
I don't think DJ Durkin will make it to the end of this year because who wants him except for that Board of Regents?
Who wants to go play there?
Exactly.
Next name is Russell Westbrook. Last night, Westbrook got into it with the man who once injured him, Patrick Beverley. They were chipping throughout the game. Then halfway through the fourth quarter, Beverley dove for a loose ball and took out Russ' legs, drawing a flagrant 1 foul. Let's watch how this all went down. All right, now here's Russ.
Yep, driving to the
Remember,
hoop.
he had never missed a game or practice before the Beverley thing. He rocked the baby.
Yes,
he did it right there while Beverly's calling for a foul. I wasn't expecting that one from, okay, you got it, Russ. And then there's this, and this is Patrick Beverley going for the ball.
Hand up. Yep, that was you, Patrick Beverley.
Are we supposed to think he went for the ball there? Because the ball was not really close to where he went.
No, and the big story here, Bomani, of course, is the backstory. Because going back to when was it, 2013? That's when Russell Westbrook was first dived into by this guy?
Yeah, no, it looks similar. And the question is, do you think Beverly deserved a flagrant 1 for that?
I think he does. And I understand Patrick Beverley. I understand the Patrick Beverleys of the world. They are here to play a football style of basketball, and there is some virtue to that, I understand. But if you are the NBA, let alone Russell Westbrook, you do the thing where you protect your superstars. And is that a cynical thing? Yes. But from a rule perspective, that should be their main goal, to protect guys from major injury, specifically the big names. You gotta punish them.
Yeah, let's say, even if we're not talking about a major star, this just feels pretty basic here. If you take out somebody's knees, that reasonably seems like a foul that is flagrant. Right?
Yes.
Like, forget about their technical definition. You know, they got things with elbows above the waist and everything else. They go for that. No. If there's anything that scares basketball players about getting hurt, it ain't getting elbowed in the head. It's about their knees being taken out. And that is what happened in that case. And it's just so hard to believe, once again, that this professional athlete is so poorly coordinated that he's supposed to be going for the ball, but his body seemed to be going in an angle away from the ball.
Yeah, we talk about Vontaze Burfict in the NFL, and I'm not saying that Patrick Beverley has risen to the level of Vontaze Burfict, but what I'm saying is that Vontaze Burfict does some things that Patrick Beverley does. He intimidates. He likes people to be uncomfortable.
Well, Vontaze Burfict intimidates. That dude annoys. Coming up next, Peterman back.
Go!
Download this show as a podcast, Bomani's too. Check out mine too if you can figure out who I am.
Kevin here says Mobile One annual protection is proven to protect for 20,000 months.
Which one of y'all kicked me?
Oh.
Wait a minute, that's your line.
That is, wait.
Yeah, you're Chris Tucker.
Whoever kicked you Mac Jones would hope that you would murder them.
Yes, I should have been the one kicking you. I got the roles mixed up. My bad.
First quote. With Derek Anderson suffering a concussion, Bills QB Nathan Peterman is expected to start Sunday versus the Chicago Bears, per sources. Tweeted Adam Schefter. The Lions have also signed Terrell Pryor and Matt Barkley. Bo, how long do you expect the Peterman to last on Sunday?
I mean, maybe all game. Time to go hit that fantasy
so.
waiver wire, baby. I doubt the Bears are available, but look at all those fantasy points right there. And not just the interceptions that you get, you get to take them to the house. It ain't the kind that jingle, it's the kind that fold. And I do not know how long he'll be out there because but Matt Barkley just coming in off the street?
Matt Barkley was last seen tweeting about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin.
Oh, he moved on.
And now he has decided to deal with an even more confusing economy. The Buffalo Bills and roster management. Because I don't know how he landed at a place exactly where the Peterman may be lasting however long this Sunday. All I know is that he will be back again because that is the legend of the Peterman. He may want to not play football, but he must.
And the thing about it, even if we don't get to the must part, the other option, their best case scenario option, is Josh Allen. He's not good either,
no.
Right?
No.
I cannot think of a time that a franchise at least tried to report to us that they either had quarterback plan or at least quarterback potential, and this is what it looks like. Just this time last year, they were looking at the Peterman like, we got to see what we got in that guy. We have a dude who made the Pro Bowl a couple years ago. Get him out of here.
So I don't know why the Peterman is cursed. Maybe it's because they traded Tyrod Taylor. Maybe it's because they refused to consider Colin Kaepernick. All I know is that the GM of the Buffalo Bills is named Brandon Beane. We should say his name on air right now because the Beanie Man seems to be someone who also shouldn't have a job.
By the way, if you are the Peterman,
yes.
At this point, you got to feel like the kid in Little League who's playing right field, and the only reason you keep coming to the games is because your parents keep putting you in the car and making you come. Right? There's no way in the world that he wants to be out here. The last time he played, he came after the game and was like, being a quarterback does not define me as a person. Son, at least on Sunday, you got to approach it like it does. Like if I were you, I'd be saying the exact same thing. But the only God can judge me was not a good sign.
No. And if God is judging you, he may have a different opinion.
Next quote. When Kawhi's up and guarding and handsy and getting his hands on balls, kind of spreads to the other guys. Said Raptors coach Nick Nurse, that's his name, after his team forced Ben Simmons to commit 11 turnovers, including 4 alone on steals from Kawhi Leonard. Pablo, how impressed are you with Kawhi and the Raptors?
I am wildly impressed by Kawhi and the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard took this game, it seems, as an opportunity to prove to everybody else that he is the best player in the Eastern Conference. And there are contenders on the Celtics, on the Sixers, but those contenders on the Sixers have now been extinguished. The turnover record, Bo, is 14. Ben Simmons had 11. Ben Simmons' job is to ball handle, and Kawhi Leonard said, I'm going to swallow you up, and I'm going to spit you out, and no one will ever consider you as good as me.
Yeah, but some of this I feel like was focused on Ben Simmons' part, because it's not, my initial thought was this is what happens when you can't shoot or you don't shoot. A really great defensive player like Kawhi Leonard can just get in your grill. The thing is, Kawhi was taking the ball from him like right across the half court line.
As soon as the game started.
Just taking it out of his hands. But the Raptors, the problem you normally have when you're a team like them is that you have a dude like DeMar DeRozan and you feel like you need to upgrade, and you can't turn a guy like DeMar DeRozan into a player who is better than DeMar DeRozan. They did. Right? Like the Spurs wound up in the you can't get a better player than Kawhi Leonard being happy about DeRozan. They turned DeRozan into the best player now in the Eastern Conference, who was in the process of making a leap in his game the last time we saw him play consistently. Now you got him.
And we saw a sad Kyle Lowry when the season started doing the phantom dap to his departed friend. But Kyle Lowry's playing amazing right now. He's like averaging 20 and 12 or whatever it is. He'll get over this too.
He's a little lonely though.
Yeah. We're actually kind of just weighing our options. Really hope that we can get something resolved. Said Cavs assistant coach Larry Drew, who's reportedly looking to get a raise before accepting that interim tag. What do you make of this situation?
Dude, I am on his side on this one. First of all, this is probably less a Larry Drew story than it is another Dan Gilbert being strangely cheap sort of story. If you want this dude to be your interim coach, it is standard practice that you give him a little bump up in his salary. That's the way that it normally goes. Now, Drew makes more than the average assistant does.
Yeah, almost $1 million or so.
But it's still the way that you wind up handling this. And look, Larry Drew knows the NBA. Ain't nobody listening to you unless you got some title that indicates that you got some stability within this operation. He too old. He been around this too long to have dudes just disregarding him when he talks, especially these sorry dudes he got to coach.
Larry Drew has been a head coach, he's been an associate, he's been an assistant, and he knows that when you inherit a head coaching job after a firing, they're usually not 76 games remaining. Like, he knows that this is going to be a slog of a job with dudes who are going to be terrible because Kevin Love is hurt now and all that. The dude just wants to get paid for the labor that he's about to do. I hope he gets that money from Dan Gilbert. I don't know if Dan Gilbert will give it to him.
But also, don't forget, he used to be an NBA player. He knows who these cats do and do not listen to. He knows who they do and do not respect. And you got no chance as the coach if these cats are not bound on one level or another to respect you. And you got to be looking around that locker room if you're them and you're like, yo, this season is already over. They talk about getting JR out of there. They talk about getting Korver out of there.
Oh, he won't even be back. I mean, Larry Drew's not going to be back next season.
No.
Zero chance of that.
No chance of that. But hey, man, Dan Gilbert got his team back. Up next, we talk about those BCS rankings.
Hey, boys and girls, Bomani and Pablo are coming to you live from above the Heineken River.
I'm afraid of that. Today's number, 4th. That is what undefeated Notre Dame was ranked in today's first college football playoff ranking. LSU was ranked 3rd despite having lost to Florida earlier this year. Did the CFP get this right, Bo?
Well, the only thing that the CFP typically gets right at this time of year is they announce a ranking that we actually get out here and argue about, even though it means absolutely nothing. Yeah, good job. Glad you knew that. Yeah, it doesn't mean a single thing at all. Now, I do have a hard time making an argument for them over an undefeated Notre Dame team, but the thing with Notre Dame is Notre Dame's got a lot of wins they racked up that look more impressive when they happened than they do right now, except the Michigan one, which is probably as strong as any win that LSU has.
Yeah, I feel for Notre Dame because that is the best win of all the undefeated teams. I feel for Notre Dame because qualitatively, since Ian Book became quarterback, they have been a way better team, and qualitative analysis is theoretically part of the CFP playoff committee. But what the CFP playoff committee can do, Bo, beyond just make something that means absolutely nothing, is they can sort of incentivize things. And so when it comes to LSU, what they're rewarding that I do appreciate, strength of schedule, right? We want these games to be more entertaining. They're saying, get more hard games.
They reward wins more than they penalize losses. It's of note. In closing, I got a couple questions for the Florida man who got himself arrested for throwing a sex toy on the field at the Patriots-Bills game Monday. 34-year-old Michael Abdullah wasn't the only person to throw a prosthesis on the field, but he's the only one who got popped for it. What I want to know is, did you buy it there or did you bring it from home? Let's learn more from WKBW ABC Buffalo.
Florida man has a date in Orchard Park Town Court to face charges that he threw a sex toy on the field at last night's game. 34-year-old Michael Abdallah is charged with disorderly conduct. Police were able to identify him.
I respect his post-racial nature.
I'm not surprised to see that dude's the one that threw it. Last night.
Thrown a sex toy on the field during a Bills home game against the Patriots.
I'm just saying, me, myself, you better make sure you ain't got nothing funny looking in your TSA bag. Because, when they start pulling your stuff out in front of everybody and then they come to this and you all by yourself, it's a lot to talk about.
But it's a valid question. At Bills games, are there basically the equivalent of those dudes who pop out with umbrellas when it's raining? Like, hey, do you want one of these? Only $5?
But here's what I'm at. We are talking about a nation where dudes don't want to sit next to their homeboy at the movies without a seat being in between.
That's right.
But we have people who are going to walk into stores and buy sex toys, and you know which toy I'm talking about, and it's be like, I'm going to a football game.
Oh, I am so macho and masculine that this is something that is making me even more macho and masculine.
I feel like that's not how they approach this sort of thing. I feel like they kind of approach it more like, hey, honey, on your way home from the store, could you pick something up for me?
Amazon Prime, maybe? Is that a thing?
You want to put on? I think these cats want to pay cash, no trail.
Touché. In closing, I got to admit something. I am surprised it took so long for this to happen. Let's watch. This is a JBA game. That is LeVar Ball. And behind him, of course, is Kanye West. They're in Belgium, by the way. I don't know why. I just know that at long last, we have the meeting of two superhero villains from different universes crossing over as Kanye basks in adoration from the Belgian people who like to watch a arguably incompetent independent basketball league. Bo, LeVar, after this, claimed that he is responsible for Kanye withdrawing from political discourse.
Did he claim that, or did he put something up that said never lost that you have determined means that he did that?
I think LeVar Ball. You think
LeVar Ball was over there in Belgium and was keeping up on that thing?
I think LeVar Ball said, you know what? If anybody knows a scammer, it is LeVar Ball. And you, my friend, have been scammed. And Kanye West opened his eyes and said, you know what? I also want to never lose.
That is almost as an amazing reach as we was trying to pull you off as Chris Tucker.
Yo, these earrings. Look at this lineup. Look at the lineup.
All I'm saying is this, though. You are the problem here, because if we stop putting these dudes on television, we won't wind up having this issue. That's the same way I feel about my co-host, by the way. Highly questionable is